Happy Monday, guys.
Happy Monday, everyone, and happy Juneteenth to all of our
Say
people out
that. Say
there.
that.
So, if this is your first time with us, welcome. Welcome to the Monday Rundown, where we talk about all the different things that are going on out there, whether it's current events or just interesting topics, mindset things.
Mhm.
Um, Things that like Winston and I honestly like we trade back YouTube videos with each other all the time, and we just want to share some of that information with all of you. There are a ton of other content creators who've got really interesting content that's just good for our own personal self growth and development.
Absolutely. And one of the ways we look into it, guys, is by asking questions. And we ask the audience, you guys, to submit questions. And we got one today that we cannot wait to dive into. So let's jump into today's topic.
What do you do when your inner voice is cruel? You
Man,
know,
that's a really good one.
yeah. So talking about personal growth, right? I think most people aren't even aware, right, that their inner voice is cruel.
Yeah.
I think it's almost like accepted that it's okay if you're like saying things like I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, like if that's what your inner voice is saying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's probably more the norm than anything else, and that's not okay, right? Like, because if you're telling yourself that, then that means that's impacting decisions you make. It impacts the relationships that you have. If your
That's a
inner
good
self
point.
talk is saying you're unworthy, you're unlovable, you're an idiot, you're stupid, you'll never do it, you're not enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can probably fill in some other ones, Winston, but
Well, I'm just thinking about how that impacts. I mean, a lot of the stuff we talk about is on being entrepreneurs. So just imagine what that does to someone's business,
mm,
and how that can affect the livelihood of others if you're having a lot of this negative self-talk. And I think everyone probably deals with it on some level, right? In some area of their life, maybe more in some areas than others. So Janelle, what do you do? What are some of the things that you do?
so I wrote a book.
Say that.
I wrote a book.
Say
For
that.
those of you who don't know, the book is called I Slept with a Married Man and Am I Still a Good Person? And I go into a lot of how does someone get to that place where they're making that bad decision. And it comes from this idea of having shame-based thinking, right? So guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am bad. I am
Hmm.
instead of the being instead of focusing on the action. And so if you
The
are thinking,
behavior, right?
yeah, exactly. So if you are thinking
Yeah.
of things like I am bad, I am unworthy, I am unlovable, whatever, all of those things, where do those thoughts come from? Like when did you start having those thoughts? Because people who are feeling or who believe or having the thoughts, the inner self-talk that they're unworthy, unlovable, all those things, they usually do three things. They self-sabotage,
Hmm.
business, family life, everywhere, right? So self-sabotage,
Relationships, yeah.
they flirt with risky behavior. And so they flirt with the risky behavior, and then it's like, oh, well, I'll flirt with it. And then when it goes south, it's like, well, see, this just proves I'm not a good person.
Oh, wow. Hmm.
And then the third thing is putting themselves in self punishment, which means I don't deserve good things. So anytime something good comes your way, you just go right back up to the first one, which is self sabotage.
Wow.
So um, putting yourself in self punishment also includes self isolation, isolating yourself from others because you don't feel like you belong or that you'd be accepted. So I say all those things to say if you're like in those three, one of those three, all of those three things,
Hmm.
I've come up with an acronym since writing my book about how to kind of like heal and get through that. And it's called a life. It's really interesting because I thought if I take out the F, it becomes a lie. So it's like the lie
Mm.
that you tell yourself. Anyway, I'm,
Play
I'm
with that.
I might change it from a life
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
a lie. But what the a life stands for is A is for awareness. So you need to be aware that you're even having these thoughts, right? That's super huge just to be aware. The L is to look within because then you need to figure out, okay, where do those thoughts come from? Typically, they come from childhood and messages you received when you were a child.
Hmm.
I won't go into all of those right now. That's another day. Um, Come to my masterclass.
I was just about to pitch that. Yeah, nice. Yeah.
I have a masterclass coming out June 29th. Everybody show up. You will learn about all of that. Then the I stands for identifying your triggers, right? So what are the things that trigger you? Everybody has a different one. For, a parental trigger might be, it's a school function. Everybody brings home baked items, and you bring in something store bought, and now you're like, I'm a bad parent because I didn't do
Oh wow, you didn't
right.
make the thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a trigger that gets you into that thinking, like I am the thing, instead of focusing on the behavior or the action. So just recognizing your triggers is huge. Like when you recognize the thing that has you start thinking these those unworthy thoughts, and then, or the bad self-talk. And then the F, this is the thing. So I'm thinking about removing the F, but it's important. The F is finding your good mirrors. These are the people who are in your life who can actually reflect back to you who you really are. So in your mind, you're thinking, I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I'm a bad parent, I'm a bad wife, I'm a bad whatever, right? You're thinking all those things. But if you have someone who's a good mirror, someone who can reflect back and be like, no, you are a good person. You do have value. You are worthy, right? Like that having someone like that in your life is huge. Real quick, I'll go into a real quick tangent. The reason why I use the word mirrors is because of an analogy that I got from Tim Fletcher, who's a pastor who talks about shame-based thinking. And he talks about how, like, when you grow up, imagine growing up in a home that only had funny mirrors, right? So those mirrors that make you look distorted. So imagine the funny mirror you had made you look 3 feet by 3 feet. So 3 feet tall by 3 feet wide.
Wide, uh-huh.
And that is the only mirror you have. So everywhere you go in your mind, you're like, I'm 3 feet tall by 3 feet wide. This is just what I look like. That's who I am. Then one day, as you're growing up, you go over to a friend's house who has a normal mirror, and all of a sudden you don't see a 3 feet wide by 3 feet tall. You see someone slender and not that wide, tall.
5'11".
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then you're like, something's wrong with your mirror. And they're like, no, the mirror is normal. Like, it's fine. Like, no, I'm 3 feet tall by 3 feet wide. Your mirror is making me look distorted. No, this mirror is normal. But that's what it's like for someone who's stuck in shame-based thinking, who's stuck in thinking they're unlovable and worthy. That's all they know because they grew up with that. And so when they finally have a good mirror in front of them, they almost don't believe it. And that's why it's so important to identify the good mirrors in your life. So that way you can constantly have them around and just be reminded. And then finally, E is for empathy. Shame-based thinking, shame literally goes away in the presence of empathy. Empathy is the kryptonite for shame. So the only way you can receive empathy, though, is by sharing what's going on with you, by sharing the things that you're ashamed of. And that takes courage, and it means that you need to be vulnerable. And for many people, that is like the worst thing ever, right? To be vulnerable. But being vulnerable and being authentic actually it's a very courageous act, and people usually relate to you more. You seem like someone that is reachable, touchable, right? And that's usually where connections are made, when people are finally being vulnerable. So anyway, all of those things, a life, or if you take out the F, it becomes a lie, the lie that you tell yourself. That's what I have found to be the key things to help with us, with the very toxic self-talk. Those are the steps that I think are really
Make a
good.
difference.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, what I've found is education around just this topic in itself is really helpful. The awareness, like Janelle talked about in her acronym, has been key. So we've done a lot of personal development trainings, and a lot of it for me, honestly, has been centered around like building a business and entrepreneurship. So it does speak to what we talk about, again, a lot in our life. But now on a personal level, some of the self-work that I do has been meditation, just a lot of reading, following different, just being very mindful about what I put in my mind. Like I used to watch a lot of shows that I recognized started, and maybe not mirroring all of the actions from, but like I'll give you an example, like a show like Love and Hip Hop or something like that, where you're just watching celebrities or pseudo celebrities kind of live their life, and they kind of hype up the drama of like dysfunction in these people's lives. And what I realized, it was like there are certain aspects of their lifestyle that I want, but I'm seeing it in a negative light because of how the show is making it. So I'm subconsciously kind of doing myself damage by not really wanting to have success because I'm not seeing it in a positive light, and not realizing that those are some of the things that will keep you from, going after your goals, building a business, making a phone call, all these things. Mind you, sitting down watching that show instead of making phone calls is, like stuff like that's not really ideally for, great for always building a business. So uh, that's where I think I have found I have a lot of success. And meditation has been a really big new component that I've been doing for a couple months now. Consistently just slowing it down, just taking time to like listen to what I'm saying to myself, like actively listening to the thoughts that I'm having. And my mind goes all over the place. And then sitting there and kind of going, where did that thought come from? Oh, yeah, I thought of that. Oh, man, that's what that makes me think of. And then kind of just playing around with that for like 20 minutes a day. And it helps me throughout the day kind of slow down when I start to drift into negative emotions or whatever the case may be. So yeah, that's what I've been up. That's what I kind of do for myself. But I know we have some other thoughts from Big Think. So let's jump into today's video and hear what they have to say.
Awesome.
Of our waking hours, not living in the present. And what do we do during that time? We're talking to ourselves. Your inner voice is your ability to silently use language to reflect on your life. Chatter refers to the dark side of the inner voice. When we turn our attention inward to make sense of our problems, we don't end up finding solutions. We end up ruminating, worrying, catastrophizing. We get stuck in a negative cycle that takes this remarkable tool that we possess, this inner voice, and it turns it into a curse rather than a blessing. My name is Ethan Kross. I'm a professor of psychology and management, and I'm the author of the book Chatter, The Voice in Our Head, Why It Matters, and How to Harness It. In terms of whether there's an evolutionary purpose to the inner voice, many scientists believe that language is a tool that helps us navigate the world. And our ability to use language not only to communicate with others, but to communicate with ourselves provides us with a survival advantage. It's an incredible problem-solving device. At the most basic end of the spectrum, our inner voice is part of what we call our verbal working memory system. It's a basic feature of the human mind that helps us keep verbal information active in our heads. Our inner voice also lets us simulate and plan. So before a big presentation, I'll go over in my head what I'm going to say. What are the different talking points that I'm going to run through? I'll hear what questions the audience is going to ask me, and then I'll respond in turn. I'm simulating that exchange, and I'm using my inner voice to help me do that. Our inner voice helps us control ourselves. Think about the last time you may have wanted to reach for a treat late at night, but then you think to yourself, don't do it. You'll regret it in the morning. That's your inner voice. And then finally, the inner voice helps us storify our lives. Many of us turn our attention inward to come up with some narrative that explains our experiences in ways that give shape to our understanding of who we are, our identity. So sometimes this inner voice can be an incredible source of help, but at other times, it can really sink us. First, it makes it incredibly hard for us to focus. Chatter consumes our attention. Chatter can also create friction in your relationships because you're talking about your problems over and over again and not being a great listener to others. It can also make us more irritable and lead to something called displaced aggression. Finally, we know that chatter can have severe negative physical health effects. You've probably heard that stress kills. That's not exactly true. A stress response is a really adaptive response. What makes stress toxic is when it remains chronically elevated over time. This is precisely what chatter does. We experience a stressor in our life, it then ends, but in our minds, our chatter perpetuates it. We keep thinking about that event over and over and over again. And that keeps that stress response active in ways that can predict things like cardiovascular disease, chronic inflammation, and even cancer. It's hard to overstate how negative the implications of chatter can be. The good news is there is a science-based toolkit that you can use to regain control of your inner voice. There are things we can do on our own, ways of harnessing our relationships with other people, and even ways of interacting with physical environments. One really great example of these tools are rituals. We love having control. When you experience chatter, you often feel like your thoughts are in control of you. One of the things that we've learned through science is that we can compensate for this feeling out of control by creating order around us. Rituals are one way to do that. A ritual is an ordered sequence of behaviors that you rigidly perform the same way each time. By engaging in the same sequence of behaviors every time the same way, that's giving you a sense of order and control that can feel really good when you're mired in chatter. The tennis great Rafael Nadal, he said the hardest thing that he struggles to do on the tennis court is manage the voices inside his head. He engages in rituals. During breaks between play, he goes over to his bench. First, he takes a sip out of one water bottle. Then he takes a sip out of another. Then he puts each water bottle back exactly where he picked them up from, on a diagonal to the court. It's a ritual he does to manage his chatter. There are no individual tools that work for all people in all situations to help manage your chatter. Instead, the real challenge is to figure out what are the unique combinations of tools that work best for you. Are you weaker for experiencing chatter? Absolutely not. You are human for experiencing chatter. So welcome to the human condition.
Man, woo.
That was so good.
It actually had me think towards the end when he brought up because it's so funny. I was thinking more of the mental stuff, and I didn't even really take into account the physical things that we do. Like when he mentioned the routines, I go to the gym. For you, I would say yoga. Right? There's so many things that we do to kind of quiet that chatter. What were you gonna say, Jay?
Oh no, well, first of all, I love that he described what chatter is, right?
Yeah.
So we call it the inner voice. Some people call it self-talk. He calls it inner chatter. And I think that really just kind of neutralizes some of it, right? Because I think at the end was probably the biggest point, which is welcome to the human condition. We all have it. So it's not about getting rid of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's how do you manage it?
How do you manage it?
And
what are your unique ways of handling it for yourself?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that it's going to be different for everyone. I think that's the what's the word I'm looking for? So I think it's not nuance. I think it's really easy.
Mm-hmm.
Enticing. I think enticement is the word I'm looking for. But I think it's very enticing to think there's a one size fits all, that we can like watch a YouTube video and like have like someone
the same response that somebody else has.
Yeah, and think that like that's gonna work for me.
Yeah.
I think he's absolutely right. I think it's really important to figure out what the things are for you, and that maybe you will have to watch multiple things. You will have to listen to multiple things because maybe somebody says something in a way that hits you even differently than when somebody else said it, right? So like I think all those things play a part in it. And so that's the part that I think actually really like hit me really, really strongly.
Powerfully.
Just this idea that like it's not going to be the same for everyone. It looks a little bit different.
Well, yeah, that's the freeing aspect of it, where you don't have to beat yourself. I mean, that's a part of maybe even some of the negative talk. It's like, why is what this person doing working for them but not work. And I'm doing the same thing and it's not working for me. And you're judging yourself based on someone else's, you don't know everything that's going on in that person or what's happening
Right.
for them. One of the things I know, a lot of the even, motivational speakers we talk about, and I think we've brought this up on some other episodes, it's like you don't know where somebody is on the field based on their external, like their outward appearance. You don't know what's going on inside their head, how long they've been working on themselves, the experiences that they've had in life that have brought them to different realizations that are allowing them to have, what you
Mm.
view as success. So I think a lot of that is key. But guys, let us know what your thoughts are on that video. That was really, really good.
That was
That was
really
really
good.
good. And he
Thank
touched
you,
on a
Big
lot
Big,
of things. Yeah,
for that.
seriously. They have a lot of if you guys go check out on our YouTube page under, I think, the community tab, we have those guys linked up. So if you want to go check out other content that they put out that we aren't even touching on and talking on, because they have a lot of stuff, definitely guys, you make sure you guys go check out the whole page, the whole YouTube page and everything we got going on there.
Really quickly, while we're talking about this, I was watching a YouTube video. It was Jay Shetty. Shout out to Jay Shetty. Would love to have Jay Shetty on one day. Talk about like making a business out of health. So if those of you who don't know, Jay Shetty hosts the #1 health podcasts in the world. And I listen to his stuff. I'm pretty sure we have his also on
On
our,
there?
yeah, like I think if you go to our channels, you'll find him. But he was interviewing hold on, I'll tell you in a second. He was interviewing Dr. Daniel Amen, spelled like Amen, Dr. Daniel Amen. And he is a physician, double board certified physician, 12-time New York Times bestselling author, and founder and CEO of Amen Clinics. There are 10 different locations. The thing is that he recently wrote a book. Shoot, I'm trying to find the name of the book. But the reason why I bring it up is because he has science-based tips for like how to be happier, healthier, that type of a thing. And he recently wrote a book. In March, he published a new book called The 7 Neuroscience Secrets of Feeling Good Based on Your Brain Type. And that's why I wanted to bring it up, is because it's based on your brain type. Again, another person I'd love to get on to do an interview. So shout out to Dr. Amen. If you eventually see this, we'd love to have you
say
on.
that.
But in his, I can't wait to get the book, because again, it's one of those things where it's like, this is personalized. If depending on your brain type, certain things will work for you to make you happier. Certain things will work for you to make you sadder. Certain things will work for you to make you healthier or not healthy.
Yeah.
Even as something as simple as for some people, meditation will be great, and for other people, meditation is not
going to be the way. Yeah.
They need to do like HIIT exercises, or like, you know what I mean? Like they need to be like more physical in what they do. And so everything we just said reminds me of that. Like, welcome to the human condition. We're all trying to figure this out for ourselves. It's going to be different for everyone. And to give yourself grace, like it's okay to try one thing and it doesn't work out.
Well, no, I think, and to that, it's about multiple things throughout the day that I think that's making the big impact. Because I'll give you, there are days where I don't get to, like, I missed whatever the meditation one day, but then I did end up being at the gym, so that's a part of it. So it's like there's like a sequence, because then there's certain parts of the day. I know one of the people I listen to talk about, like, for some people, driving to work is like, that for them is a part of that, could be great or that could be terrible. And that could influence a part of their day. Like some days the music is going, the traffic's flowing, they're having the best time of their life. Other days it is the worst 30 minutes, 45 minutes of their, of their morning. And so that could influence it. And so I think it's about throughout your day, making sure. One thing I've started adding into the later part of my day is going outside. Not realizing how much it makes a difference, because I don't work in the function I used to. I used to do it when I was working in the city. And I got out of the habit of that, and I realized that, but that made a difference that you went outside and sat for a little bit, and got some sun and just sat there and just thought and watched things go by for a little bit. I know Janelle takes walks. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's different things throughout your day. I'm sure the walk is at a certain part of the day where it's like, I need this walk now, you know what I mean? So I think, guys, create a sequence of things throughout your day to help manage Because like she said, I don't think it's about getting rid of the voice. It's about managing it and understanding that. I'm sure and there's value in it. You'll learn that there is value, because it does get you to do stuff that you don't necessarily always want to do.
Right.
My voice gets me to go to the gym because it says not nice things about my body. All right.
Dr. Amen says what you can do before you make every decision, especially when it relates to physical exercise and food, is this good for my brain? And if the answer is yes, go ahead and
go
do
for
it.
Nice.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, this has been great. If again, we want to hear your comment or want to see your comments, so we can't wait to enter that discussion with all of you. And until next time, as always, remember, you deserve the good life. Say that.
We'll see you guys next week. Peace.